One of the most celebrated composers of music of the 20th century, Victor Young composed music for the radio, Broadway, films and TV, and was a workaholic which would lead to his untimely death in 1956. Henry Mancini said of the composer,
Vic loved life in all its forms. He was a gracious man, but worked himself too hard, and I think he drove himself to an early grave.
Victor Young was born in Chicago, Illinois on August 8, 1899, or was it 1900 or even 1901? It was quite common at the time that birth dates were not reliable, shall we say, as Al Jolson also had a dubious birth date, but Victor Young's birth certificate says 1899, so we will go with that. He was born into a musical family. His father was a tenor and toured with the Joseph Sheehan Company. After his mother died, his father left him and his sister Helen to fend for themselves. They both went to Poland to live with their grandparents and brought them up. Victor Young was a child prodigy who started to play the violin at the age of 6, and it was his grandfather who encouraged his education and sent him to the Warsaw Imperial Conservatory to study violin under Isidor Lotto. Later, as a teenager aged just 15, he would perform with the Warsaw Philharmonic. After graduating from the Warsaw Conservatory, Victor was unable to return to America and stayed in Poland. But times were hard, and the money he was earning just kept him above water. However, he had a friend named Rita Kinnell, who he had met during the war, kept him going in terms of food, as the Germans who occupied Poland kept food for themselves. Rita Kinnell would later marry Victor. It was in 1920 that Victor returned to America, working as a violinist for the Central Casino Orchestra, where he was able to start arranging and conducting performances for radio and theaters. In 1930, Victor was asked to rearrange a Hoagy Carmichael song, Stardust, which Victor changed from an up-tempo number to a slow ballad where Bing Crosby had a hit with it, and later on with Nat King Cole.
Sometimes I wonder why I spend the lonely night dreaming of a song. The melody haunts my reverie, and I am once again with you when our love was new, and each kiss an inspiration. Oh, but that was long ago. Now my consolation is in the stardust of a song.
Sometimes I wonder why I spend the lonely night dreaming of a song. That melody haunts my reverie, and I am once again with you when our love was new, and each kiss an inspiration. Ah, but that was long ago. Now my consolation is in the stardust of a song.
And now the purple dusk of twilight time steals across the meadows of my heart. High up in the sky, the little stars climb, always reminding me that we're apart. You wander down the lane and far away, leaving me a song that will not die. Love is now the stardust of yesterday, the music of the years gone by. Sometimes I wonder why I spend the lonely night dreaming of a song. The melody haunts my reverie, and I am once again with you when our love was new, and each kiss an inspiration. But that was long ago. Now my consolation is in the stardust of a song. Beside a garden wall, when stars are bright, you are in my arms. The nightingale tells his fairy tale, a paradise where roses grew. Though I dream in vain, in my heart it will remain, my stardust melody, the memory of love's refrain.
Victor Young resided in New York from 1931 to 1934, where he worked for Brunswick Records and was prolific in terms of recording music of popular dance and waltzes, and was also musical director for Decca Records. He was conductor, arranger, and music director for such singers as Al Jolson, and had his band called the Victor Young Orchestra.
Is it true what they say about Dixie?
I don't know, that's why I'm asking you. Now is it true what they say about Dixie? Does the sun really shine all the time? Do the sweet magnolias blossom at everybody's door? And do the folks keep eating possum till they can't eat no more? Is it true what they say about Swanee? Is a dream by that stream so sublime? Do they laugh? Do they laugh like they say in every song? If it's true, that's where I belong.
Is it true what they say about Dixie?
Yeah.
Does the sun really shine all the time?
Yeah.
Do the sweet magnolias blossom at everybody's door? Do folks keep eating possum
Lake Candy no more. That's me.
Is it true what they say about Swanee?
Show.
Is a dream by the stream so sublime?
Oh, yeah.
Do they laugh, do they love, like they say in every song? If it's true, that's where I belong.
Now, is it true what they say about Swanee? Is a dream by that stream so sublime? Do they laugh, do they love, like they say in every song? If it's true, that's where I belong.
In 1935, Victor went to Hollywood and rekindled his relationship with Rita Cannell, who he later married. In 1936, he was employed by Paramount Pictures as their chief composer and arranger, and his film music career took off writing countless scores for films, one of which was for the 1940 film Gulliver's Travels. Victor Young had worked with many lyricists, for example, Ned Washington, Edward Heyman, Joe Young, and Joe Livingston. One of his songs, My Foolish Heart, lyrics by Ned Washington for the film of the same name in 1949, was a big hit for Billy Eckstine. Henry Mancini said of Young,
All he had to do was sit down at the piano and the melodies fell out of his sleeves.
The night is like a lovely tune. Beware, my foolish heart, how white the ever-constant moon. Take care, my foolish heart. There's a line between love and fascination that's hard to see on an evening such as this, for they both give the very same sensation when you're lost in the magic of a kiss. Her lips are much too close to mine. Beware, my foolish heart. But should our eager lips combine, then let the fire start. fascination, or a dream that will fade and fall apart. It's love, this time it's love, my foolish heart.
Victor Young was establishing himself in the art form of scoring films and was able to write for different genres, for example, westerns, swashbuckling films and romances, but all the while failing to win an Academy Award despite being nominated many times. Directors such as Cecil B. DeMille, George Stevens, and John Ford commissioned Young to write scores for their films, as Young's melodies illustrated their films very well. John Ford commissioned Young to score his films, Rio Grande in 1950 and again in 1952 for The Quiet Man. For The Quiet Man, Young was able to capture that Irish air with his music and interweaving known Irish melodies throughout the score. It was common knowledge to people around him that Young was a workaholic and deprived himself of proper sleep, food, and downtime away from music. He didn't take advice from doctors easily or from friends to slow down, and as a consequence, his health began to suffer. Young was penciled in to score Cecil B. DeMille's next film, The Ten Commandments, but due to failing health, he recommended Elmer Bernstein for the job. Victor Young died on November 10, 1956, of a cerebral hemorrhage, aged 57. He finally won an Oscar after his passing for the 1956 film Around the World in 80 Days, which was awarded posthumously in 1957. His later unfinished score for the film China Gate 1957 was finished by his friend Max Steiner. Victor Young and Max Steiner were good friends and worked together to get recognition in terms of their royalties for their work. Young received 22 Academy nominations and won one. It's incredible to think that he didn't win more for his work. Songs such as My Foolish Heart, When I Fall in Love, Love Letters, Stella by Starlight are part of the American Songbook now. His legacy was his gift for melody, and that's why directors wanted him for their films, and he has been recognized with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. He was without doubt one of the most popular songwriters and composers of his generation, and quite rightly takes his place among the greats of Hollywood music history.